Greetings, friends. It's Pat with another episode of Let's Talk Travel. And first of all, thank you all for being faithful listeners. We're so glad you're out there in our audience and appreciate those of you who come back week after week to check in and see what's going on at Dancing Moon Travel with our podcast, Let's Talk Travel. And I am very excited this evening because we're featuring our own Kevin Gragg, who has been with us at Dancing Moon Travel practically since the beginning of time. And Kevin, welcome. We're so glad to have you here. I know many of you know Kevin personally, and many more have appreciated him over the years for his unique insights and photography and great sense of humor. So welcome, Kevin. You just took a very interesting trip to a destination that's kind of off the beaten path and a lot of people are not familiar with. Could you just start by telling us a bit about the island of Sardinia and where is it? What's the climate like? Just fill us in on some of those generalities.
Well, hi, Pat, and thank you for welcoming me onto the program. I just like to travel and see new things. Sardinia was not on my list either, but when an opportunity comes up, I take it. Sardinia is a island off the coast of Italy. It is part of Italy, and it's small. I live in Ireland, and Sardinia is about a quarter of the size of the island of Ireland. And the population is only something like 1.7 million people on the island. And so it wasn't something that was on my radar. But they're known for a kind of a Mediterranean climate. It's kind of, even January and February, it's 50 degrees, and then maybe highs of 80s in the summertime. So, it's a great place to at least explore. So I thought, why not? Let's go.
I love it. And what about your itinerary, Kevin? As islands go, it may not be huge, but it's a pretty good sized island when you compare to the Caribbean and so forth. But what were some of your itinerary choices and some of the high points, maybe the good, the bad, if there was any ugly in the mix?
Well, I not knowing exactly a whole lot about it, my first destination, my first stop was on the northwest coast into a place called Alghero, and that's Alghero, but the G is not pronounced, so it's Alghero. And it's kind of known for its ancient walled city. Mm-hmm. And so you've got that attraction with the narrow cobblestone streets and the little unique shops and walkways. That was the highlight. The hotel I stayed at was right on the beach, a beautiful, beautiful beach. It was actually difficult. The availability of hotels in the town is not significant. I stayed because I wanted to stay someplace close to the old town, but I wanted to be close to the beach. And I found what I thought was a good, where I stayed was a good alternative. It was about a 3-mile walk to Old Town. For me, that's not a big deal. I'm used to doing that. But 7 to 10 miles of walking per day was fairly common for me. And I think the highlight for me of the town was the wall itself. And I have a picture to, I believe,
Okay.
Oh, well,
Yeah, show
well,
us.
that's one of the sunrises right out front of my hotel. So, I mean, you can't complain about that.
Gorgeous, Kevin. That is absolutely, yeah, and that's something I rarely see is sunrises. I'll admit to you. Sunsets, yes, but not so many sunrises.
And then when I got into Old Town, you can walk along the wall, and the wall was right up to the sea there, and so you can see off in the distance. And those two fellows just happened to be sitting on the wall, which was made for a perfect photograph.
Just great image
And
there, Kevin.
and then the marina is actually right below the wall itself. So you can see there onto the far right of that photograph some small boats. They
Small
had
yacht type, or those.
they had tours.
Okay, tour boats. Okay.
Yeah, they're like little. You could go on, and they would go around the coastline. And I think there was one that had some caves. You could go see water caves, things. I did not do that, but primarily I was in Alhero for 5 days, and enjoyed the restaurants. But and I went on a wine tour for a day trip, which is always fun to have some wine samples. And this was kind of a big corporate type winery, and so it was state of the art, and they had their tours and all that. But it was good.
Okay.
So spent 5 days there, and then wanted to go see more different part of the country or the island. Went south all the way to the south coast, to the capital of Sardinia, which is Cagliari.
Okay.
Again, there's a G in there that's silent. It's Cagliari. Looks like Cagliari, but it's Cagliari.
Okay.
And even that's probably butchered. It is a bigger town than Alhero, but it was far from the beach. Very hilly, and it's kind of known for a medieval walled quarter of the city as well. It's got I got a picture here that shows
Ooh, that's gorgeous.
this.
Kevin.
This is I'm having a delay here, so can you see the photograph?
Yes, I see it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Great image.
Okay, because
Beautiful sky and the city spread out
so
under it.
Yeah. See, now that I'm like I said, I can't see it, but what I recall is this photograph. There's you can kind of see the old town up on the hill on the of that landscape, and then
Okay,
they're
it's kind of set
surrounded
off
by the
by
rest of the
kind of
newer part of
a band
Cagliari.
of greenery there that surrounds the old town, but between the newer city, I guess. It's gorgeous, beautiful.
Yeah, there's some greenery, and then there's some. Oh, okay, it popped up on my screen. So there's some greenery, and then there's the newer part of the town, and then there's up on the very peak of that hill is what they called the Castella,
Okay.
the old castle, medieval castle.
Mhm.
From there, there's some great views. And what's interesting, Pat, and I forgot, when I made that trip, the town I was in of Alhero didn't have a train station that would go there. So I had to go to another town called Sassari and to catch the train. And it was about 15 minutes, 20 minutes away by taxi.
Okay. This was a question I
Then
was
I
going
got
to
to the
ask.
train.
Now, it was about the transportation. So you segued right into that.
Yeah. And then from the train station in Sassari, then there was a train down to Cagliari, and it was a 3.5 hour train ride, and it was half the price of what the taxi was. It was €15 for me to take a 3.5 hour comfortable train ride, and enjoyed that because I got to see some of the interior of the island on the train. So
that
was fun.
that is interesting. I love hearing about that because sometimes those little trips like that on the road, it's very interesting to see the world going by. This is a gorgeous photo, Kevin.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, this is one of the narrow streets that you find just walking around. Again, I did a lot of walking, a lot of hills in Cagliari, especially if you want to go up to the medieval village. A lot of walking up hills. So I didn't do as many miles, but I think I put more work on my legs than I did.
okay, so this would be somebody, people who are relatively fit and can do a lot of walking. This would be a great destination for those who enjoy being active and really you need to be able to motivate a good bit to hear. This is another gorgeous picture, Kevin. Now, what about this one?
Now, yeah, and what you were saying about seeing the city, it is one that you really, to see it, need to walk. I did go on one of those it wasn't a hop on, hop off experience, but it was see Cagliari in a bus trip, and it was about an hour, and it did kind of a perimeter around the city, and that was good to kind of give me an idea of what was in the area and all that. So the picture that's up there now, that's after climbing up a hill. You can see the ocean in the background, and in the foreground there is an old Roman amphitheater.
That looks like it really dates back a lot of years.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact times, but they were saying that they had shows there of the gladiators fighting animals, fighting other gladiators, things like that. And I'm kind of surprised the island has not really preserved it really well. It's fenced off, and you can't. There's no way to go look at it any closer. I actually was having to stick my camera through a fence to be able to snap that picture. So I don't know if it's because they have considered it too fragile to allow tourists too close, or if it's dangerous, or if it's a matter of money to fix it up so that it is easy to access. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was an interesting view of that. I also went on a couple of day trips. The first day trip I did from there was another wine tour. Seems like I go on a wine tour every time I go someplace. But this one was from a small private winery. The man greeted the group, took us out into his own vineyard, let us taste the grapes off the vines. Him and his little dog, Spank, followed us around. He took us into the winery and demonstrated how he makes the wine. He makes something like, I think he said 30,000 bottles a year, which is very, very small. He then set out a banquet table with all fresh food of local that had been grown in the local area, olives and cheese and different types of what's it, prosciutto, ham.
Oh, love that.
All this was all laid out, and we just sat there and he poured out samples of four of his different wines. I really enjoyed that day. That was a really highlight of the time in Cagliari.
You know, the thing
Um,
about this is, Kevin, is when you take a trip like this, and I try to emphasize to our clients about this, that so often some people want to pass on excursions and day trips and things, but these so often are your memory makers. These are the things, those experiences are what you want to take home with you. So when you come upon a gem like this, you will remember that. That was an experience that will live on in your memory, and you kind of relive that from time to time, thinking about that day.
yeah, it was it was a high. Both my day trips out of Cagliari were the highlights. The first being this wine tour, and then the second being this day trip to it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Barumini,
What on earth is that?
Barumini. And now this is an aerial shot. I did not take this. I stole this. It's an aerial shot of this. It's a oh, I forgot what they call it. It's a defensive structure. Oh, they're called nuragis.
Okay.
And in that photograph, in the top, you can see it's kind of like a castle type thing, surrounded by smaller. So the castle was actually the watchtower and where the chieftain would live. And we're talking here Bronze Age, second millennium BC, when this was built. And you can see there's the round columns there on each of that castle-like thing. They actually stood quite a bit higher than that. And then there was a center column that went up even higher, and so it gave them a view of the surrounding area. And then those smaller places were the homes of the villagers.
Okay, so they had kind of little round structures. It's fascinating.
Yeah. So I had a tour guide who was very knowledgeable and walked the group. There was a group of 6 of us, walked through. He explained everything. We actually got to walk through this. There were these people in the Bronze Age must have been tiny people. It was a little claustrophobic I'm not huge, but I'm 6'2" and pushing, around 200 pounds. And some of those passageways, I wasn't sure whether I was going to squeeze through or not.
Wow.
This is a view from the top of the castle type thing. So you can see they had a view like that 360 degrees around. So if any enemy would be coming, they could see it coming. And then that mountain kind of right there in the background, another big hill, That was another village, another clan, and the historians don't know if they were a friendly clan or if they were enemies of this particular area. But there's another one located on top of that hill.
Just fascinating, Kevin, and you have another one yet.
Yeah, now this one actually shows, they believe this was actually a kitchen. You see the bench there, and in the middle was where they could do food preparation.
Okay.
And the arch in the upper right-hand corner is an arch, they says was probably the entryway into this cooking area where people would gather,
the dining hall,
for meals and things like that. Yeah.
Fascinating.
So a very interesting day. And the thing is that it was only an hour outside of Cagliari, and the driver took back roads. So got to see again more of what he didn't just take us on the expressway. He took us on back roads, went through wineries, saw different farmland, went through herds of sheep. So it was a very fun day.
Very interesting.
And then the last photo I have is one of the narrow passageways that I was crawling through.
I can see,
I don't know
Kevin,
if it's popped up there or not. I'm still having a delay.
Yeah, I see it, and I can see where that would feel claustrophobic for you. Wow, that's tight.
Yeah,
that's tight, Kevin.
Yeah, it was a little tight.
Yeah, you know me, and I
Excuse me.
and I know it's kind of always of interest to our clients and listeners as well, but we need to talk a little bit about the food. Is Sardinia known as a gem for foodie clients, or not so much?
A couple of things. First, I'll start off with Sardinia is one of, I think, only a half dozen areas in the world that's called a blue zone. And a blue zone are regions of the world where people are speculated to live longer than average. And in Sardinia was actually the first area identified as a blue zone. And they have 10 per capita, they have 10 times the number of people that reached age 100 than in the US. The reason I bring that up when you ask about food is they say it's because they are an island, and for many, many years, everything they ate was fresh, self-sustained stuff grown on the island. And at least 2 to 3 glasses of wine per day. And they said that is what got them to this position of being a blue zone. Personally, you think of Italy and you think, oh, I can't wait for the food. Mm-hmm. I was a little disappointed, actually. If you love pizza and you love pasta, knock yourself out. But every single restaurant, and there were tons of them, it's like, if you didn't get pizza or pasta, what's my options? And I don't know, maybe it's just where I grew up, but where I grew up in Kansas City, an Italian section of Kansas City, garlic was in every single meal that you prepared, an Italian meal. There was never any garlic in any of the meals that I had.
Interesting.
Which I was surprised. Many of them were sea-based and pasta. So from a food standpoint, I had a hard time sometimes. I remember one meal that the restaurant was picked specifically because I looked online and they said they had hamburgers. And and I was thinking, I never do this when I'm traveling. I always want to eat what the
The local.
local and traditional foods and things. But man, I wanted a hamburger and fries. One thing to be careful of on almost every menu was something called cavallo, Cavallo, which is horse. Um, they have horse meat, horse steaks in just about every restaurant. And they look like a regular steak, but I'm sorry,
I can't go there.
I wouldn't even, it kind of made me ill to even see people ordering it. So,
Yeah, not my thing either, Kevin. I would not want to go there. In fact, if I were to inadvertently, not knowing what it was, eat that and find out later, I would probably be sick for weeks.
now I didn't see this, but I didn't see it on any of the menus that where I was. But there are places in Sardinia where donkey is also on the menu.
Okay. Well, they can keep my donkey too. I mean, they're cute little animals, and I don't want to have them for lunch. Not going to go there. Kevin, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
This has been very enlightening to me because I can't say enough. Sardinia is not some place that I have ever visited, and certainly hasn't been on my radar. But this has been very enlightening, and I can see some people who would really enjoy a trip there. And we always give something away. Always got to have a giveaway for our live listeners only, folks. If you're listening live tonight, I am going to send one of our lucky listeners. I want you to put Sardinia, Sardinia, in the comment section, and we will enter you into our drawing. This is San Giuliano extra virgin olive oil. It's 25.3 ounces, hard to find here in the USA. An Epicurean delight. You don't want to just fry up some potatoes in this. No, this is dress your salad, crisp romaine, tomato, onion, artichokes, a splash of balsamic and Italian seasonings for bread, or maybe homemade bruschetta, which is what my favorite use would be. But enter Sardinia in the comments, and you will be entered to win this bottle of extra virgin olive oil direct from Sardinia, and hard to come by here in the USA. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us this
Pat,
evening.
can I add one thing?
Oh, of
I'd
course,
like to add
absolutely.
one thing, if I might. I recommend people go see Sardinia.
Okay.
It would be a great place to go. Now, I went for 2 weeks. I think if you went for a week, maybe if you're in Italy doing the Italy tour, look for something that can get you over to Sardinia for 5 days. That would be perfect, and catch some of it. Go to the Barumini ruins. Do a wine tour, but don't go for 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks was overkill, but you would say you would go back and do it for a week.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Great places, especially Alhero if you like the beach, and Cagliari if you'd like to do some of the ancient villages and things like that in the area.
And be prepared to do some walking, obviously.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Kevin. This has been most enlightening to me because it's a new destination for me. And folks, if you are interested in going to Sardinia or any other destination, just just reach out to me here at Dancing Moon Travel. We are happy to help you. And if I have questions, I can confer with Kevin for more insights. And thank you again for being faithful audience. Thank you. So, we appreciate all of you, and going to wish you a great rest of your evening, and hope to see you again next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, Pat.